And we're back with the Miles Ed podcast. Josh is back. And we have...
Oh, yeah.
we missed that. And we have Chris Engasser, who
Hey,
is
everyone.
Hello. We can't say you're a former Marine, right? There's no such thing.
Once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
Yeah, there we go. Can't say former Marine. So we're going to talk about his experiences in Afghanistan, men's work, mental health, all the fun things that we always talk about. And Josh, I think, were you guys there at the same time? What was your guys' timelines?
I was there in 2010, so I think I might have been after you, Josh. I was telling Miles, I'm excited to hear. My circle is like Marine centric, so I'm excited to hear about a little bit more on the Army perspective too.
Yeah, and it's so long ago, and it was such a rapidly changing mission. And I'm just curious as to what the feel of the country was like, almost a decade into the campaign.
So
2010 was definitely a wild time there for sure. It was kind of when we touched down, it was mid towards the end of that push through Marja up into Sangin. Helmand province was it's the Wild West, really.
Yeah. You were obviously, it sounds like you were out in the field. You had a very tactical role.
Yeah. So we, I guess my specific squad, we were in Nawa district in Helmand province. So we had Marja just to our west, Sangin a bit to our north. And we had so 3rd Marines, 1-3 had completed the push into and through Nawa. We kind of took hold of Nawa, starting to do some of what's more, trying to win the hearts and minds of the people in Nawa. We had essentially pushed out the Taliban, so we were holding it at that point, and that's when things were really popping off over in Sangin, to our north. But yeah, so it's crazy how different each AO was, and how close we were with just the high kinetic activity in Sangin versus us kind of holding Nawa and having I'm not saying it wasn't kinetic in Nawa, but not quite what they were seeing out there in Sangin for sure.
Well, yeah, and I don't know, how old were you on this deployment, Chris? And this
21.
Okay, yeah. And you maybe had more time, or there was more opportunities for deploying forces to get spun up on the culture and background of the country of Afghanistan. One of the things that kind of jarred me or cracked me up too about the country is that in 2005, when they were holding these elections, and there was a sense of that they're going to create a legitimate nation. It was a shock to me to learn, as I got deeper into the country, into the politics and the people, of how you mentioned we took control of that province or of this area. It is such a small percentage of the country is actually in any sort of organized was ever under any one banner or any one government control or any one forces. It's like, in my perception as a young 19, 20-year-old, I was like, oh, this place is like America, where it has constant communication, and the laws are the same, the hierarchies are the same in every state and every municipality. It's more or less the same things are going on. And then going to a place where you literally go one valley over from the base, or one valley over from the nearest urban center, and the people are completely different. They actually disregard the laws of their own country. And you go 2 valleys over, or a province over, they don't even know what the government of Afghanistan is. They don't even speak that language. They're like, what are you talking about? We're not Afghani citizens. We're not even Pashto. I don't even know what you're saying. And so it was just like a completely different planet in such a small area. And the wrapping my head around that fast, I was like, oh, we're never going to have 100% control of this place. if we're lucky, we can hopefully know what's going on in most of this place at the same time. And just kind of getting up in my mind around how things work in the real world on the ground. It was kind of a shock, and the limitations that still exist. I'm sure the Taliban doesn't even have 100% control over Afghanistan.
No, that's a good point. An absolute culture shock. And I guess to kind of paint the picture, so Helmand Province, southern Afghanistan, along the Helmand River there. There's no running water, there's no electricity. These people are living in like the biblical times almost, like mud huts is that's what we operated out of, was an old abandoned, mud compound. There's no roof over it. It's mud walls. We'd see kids with, some like metal pole hooked up to a generator, and they're throwing it into this river trying to, shock fish so they can take the fish out of the water and eat it. And it's wild. But yeah, these people had no way to communicate with those from, Kunar province. They probably never even heard of that. Some of these people that are in the Helmand province, and they don't know what's going on in Kandahar or Kabul. It's like, it's a distant world to them. So it's crazy to think how worlds apart, these different tribes and cultures were. I mean, we'd see, gypsy tribes along the Helmand River where they just kind of move along. They bring their camels, and they'll pack up somewhere and move to the next spot for a week or so, and just living in different times, a different world.
So how did your time there, and what did your time in the Marine Corps, how did that impact you at the moment? Did it change your perspective or your desire to make a career out of it? Or what was the impact that your tour had on you?
And just seeing the world differently. Like, I had no idea, like, when we touched down, I had no idea people were still really living like that. Like, I know there's third world countries out there, and I knew that, but growing up in Central Florida, you don't see that, and a lot of us hadn't. So it definitely, you don't take things for granted, for sure, as much as you may have in the past. But it's what I was looking to get out of the Marine Corps. I went into it, I wanted some adventure. Originally, I guess to backtrack here, I had gone to college, I had a scholarship, and, it was expected of me to go to college. I knew I didn't want to go to college. Growing up, I wanted to go do some deadliest catch thing on a fishing boat in Alaska, or get out there and do something different. Originally, I had enlisted, or sort of enlisted, into the Air Force. I joined the delayed entry program, wanted to get into a combat controller pipeline, go all the way to MEPS, do the physical, and they tell me I'm colorblind. And I'm like, what? And so they say, you can't do this. We'll give you essentially a desk job. Nothing against that. I love our support guys out there, but that's not what I was looking to do. Ended up talking to a Marine recruiter, and it's like, hey, can I still be infantry? And like, they said, I'm colorblind. And of course, they're like, they're doing the push right now through Helmand. So they're like, yeah, sign you up. That was the whole process. That kind of delayed things for about a year for me to get out of the Air Force delayed enlistment program and to switch over to the Marines. And yeah, we did that. Boot camp, which was a blast. I was prepared, wanting to do the combat controller thing. I was in really good shape. Went to School of Infantry. They kind of let you pick your MOS from there. You want to be a mortarman, machine gunner, assaultman. So I had known I wanted to be a machine gunner. Did that, and from there it's kind of, hey, you guys are going to Hawaii and Aoi Bay. You're going to be deploying in about 8 months, and let's do it. So we kind of knew what we were in for a bit, but not quite to the extent of, that culture shock of that helo drops us into now a district, Helmand province, and all you see is sand and mud walls. And then you have this strip of green area along the river, and we went and did it. And
you were trained on multiple weapon systems, yeah? That was kind of part of your MOS?
So essentially, yeah. All the machine guns, the 240, the 50, the Mark 19, we still operated It's funny because the whole workup before that deployment, we trained on trucks. We were CAT teams, so combined anti-armor teams. We'd have
Mm.
tow gunners with us.
Mhm.
Then we get in country and they say, no, we don't have any trucks for you guys. You're gonna be
Oh my.
walking everywhere. So kind of pivot, the Marine Corps way,
Yeah.
last minute change there into our regular fire teams. And
Mm.
they split us up into, it was actually my squad. And then we had a mortar squad with us in this little compound. So about 20, 25 of us. And we had about 15, Afghan police, Afghan army guys attached to us in that compound. Cause they really wanted us at that point to start training them, to do that turnover, let them start policing their area. And, that was a whole nother battle.
Yeah, I bet.
What a dude, what an adventure. You signed up for adventure and you got it. I
Yeah,
mean, I would call that a success.
no, totally. It was, one of the coolest adventures I've ever done. And then being able to work too. It's like side by side with some of these guys. I made one of my best friends I made on that deployment was an interpreter from Kabul. And he was down there in Helmand wanting to help out US forces. And he loved the idea of what we were trying to do down there. Um, I've been trying to track this guy down for years too. And I hope he did make it out of there eventually over to the States. That was his goal. But yeah, and that shows the disparity too. I mean, he was super well educated. Before the war, he had been educated in Kabul. He knew English really well. Just an awesome guy. And even for him coming down to Helmand province, that was a shock. It's way different from how he grew up in Kabul.
Man, so geez, what a great attitude that you had in terms of knowing what you wanted and pivoting from the Air Force to a Marine Corps machine gunner. Get some. Uh,
Yeah, it was a gut punch. I was super motivated into, cause I had a buddy who he graduated from Buds. He became a SEAL. I had other friends in the Marines too, but something about the Air Force, like just knowing as a kid, hearing about PJs, and then eventually combat controllers, like that was really cool to me. It's something that you don't hear a lot about in the military as far as spec ops. Everyone knows, Delta and DevGru. Here's these PJs that are kind of quietly like some of the most badass guys out there.
Mhm.
So I thought that was the coolest thing. And when they told me I was colorblind, it was totally a gut punch, but being able to, talk to the Marine recruiter, and my grandpa was a Marine. He served in Korea. So right away, it just felt like it was fate in a way. And then, yeah, the adventure took over from there.
This is some of the first time you've talked about this as well, right? We were talking before at jiu-jitsu about this. It's been a bit. I think you.
Yeah, it was, yeah, and I think that kind of plays into, getting out, and I don't want to jump around too much here, but getting out of the Marine Corps, especially after, just the crazy workups we did, the high op tempos, during that time. I mean, a complete other shock. And I tried so hard to almost turn off the Marine in me.
Hmm.
And that was, probably the wrong thing to do at the time. So really now I'm kind of jumping back into things, reintegrating myself into the coolness that I once had going on.
well, say more about that, Chris. Like, what did you feel was going on in your world that made you want to drop down from sixth gear into third gear, or whatever, whatever language you would use to describe that?
Yeah. So ultimately, third Marines out there in Kenya, we were, we were one of the first to stop deploying over to the Middle East, which was tough for a lot of us. After that deployment, we really wanted to get back out there. A lot of us had buddies in 3-5 who just had probably the craziest deployment during that Afghanistan war. And we wanted to go back and, not get some revenge, but, kind of have our guys' backs from that. And, yeah, they told us, you guys are going to Japan for your next deployment. And that hit a lot of us hard. And we decided, most of us, this group, we ultimately got out after that 4 years and didn't quite want to do that peacetime. We're gonna have your rooms cleaned every single day, and not the adventure that we all wanted to do anymore. So a lot of us pivoted out of the Marine Corps at that point, and I think it was a big change, a change that a lot of us weren't ready for. You're around a bunch of rowdy Marines 24/7, high op tempo, shooting machine guns every day. And next thing you know, you're dropped back off in your hometown. No one has any idea what you just did, what you went through, what you're used to doing. And it was tough. A lot of us, kind of revert, we drink a lot in the Marines, and unfortunately you get out and you're still doing it, but you don't have those Marines there with you anymore. You can get to some dark places. And
Yep.
I was fortunate enough to have a really good roommate, a couple of them at the time that kept me on track. But yeah, it's really difficult.
Yeah, it can be dark
So,
for a lot of Marines. Or they can have a lag.
What's that?
Because that could be really, really hard, that transition for a lot of veterans. Just definitely can be dark.
Yeah, and I think you guys kind of touched on it, a podcast with Frank,
Right.
talking about the tribe. Wasn't until a lot of us read that book where, that light bulb went off. Like, we need that tribe, and
Mm.
we didn't have it anymore, and we didn't know where to find it. So
That's such a good book.
we were looking in all the wrong places and doing all the wrong things, trying to connect back with that tribe.
That's Sebastian Junger, that book you're talking about, right? Tribe.
Yeah. Awesome book. Awesome guy too. I remember
Oh, yeah.
Restrepo came out, I think, right as we were deploying. And that was like we watched that movie a lot before that deployment, kind of getting in the mindset.
You were near Dakota Meyer and Kyle Carpenter too? Or they in your
So,
baton?
yeah, actually, Kyle Carpenter, he jumped on that grenade. I want to say it was November 21st, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
That's the day that the helo dropped us off in Helmand Province, and we
Wow.
made it to our patrol base. So we didn't know it at the time. Being able to read his book now, and it's pretty crazy, the timing of that. And Dakota he's actually a fellow Kaneohe Hawaii Marine,
Wow.
3rd Marines. He was, I think he was in 1-3, I want to say. And he was attached to units up in Kunar province. So Marines didn't really operate in that part of Afghanistan, but they would send embedded training teams, is what he was a part of, to do kind of like special missions. And that's what he was a part of. So he was in one of those completely different worlds in Afghanistan. And yeah, his story is another one. A lot of stories like that came out of that time frame.
Yeah, good books.
And I know I've told you about this one a lot. Those Marines in Sang, and I'll probably talk about them a lot during this podcast because I look up to them as, honestly, probably the greatest Marines of my time, and probably the greatest Marines in the war in Afghanistan. And there's been a lot of them, but 1 Million Steps by Bing West. I don't think I've ever read a book that touched me, the way that book did. It's just absolutely a wild story. I was fortunate enough to go to Machine Gun Leaders course after that deployment with those guys, several of those guys in the book, hearing their stories. It's, man, just crazy. The acts of heroism, just the things you'll do for your brothers to your left and your right. And you'll definitely read the book. It'll blow your mind, what they did for each other out there.
Mm. Yeah, I've heard it's great. Anything else you want to talk about on your deployment that we're not covering so far? I know that we've skipped around a little bit, but there were so many more interesting and sad and cool things that have happened to you that we've talked about previously.
Yeah, we could probably talk about it for days, honestly. I think just being able to walk around, Helmand Province, and that's every day. That's what we're doing. Sort of checking in on, the villagers. They've really wanted us there. They felt safe because we were there. We were keeping the Taliban out of their village. Their sons were no longer being conscripted by the Taliban to go off and fight us.
Yeah.
And that's what the Taliban would do. They would come into a village. If you're a military age man, or even not quite military age yet, they're taking you out of the village, and now you're a Taliban. So the mental aspect of that too, knowing, you're out there fighting a lot of kids that don't really want to fight you, but they're being forced into it. It was definitely tough, but being able to be among the villagers and play that role for them was honestly great. Especially looking back on it now, like I'm so, I feel privileged that we were able to do that and help those people out. I think there's a lot of misconceptions that they didn't want us there. We were, the bad Marines. Civilians were caught in the crossfire, which it did happen. But I'd say, my experience in Helmets Province was they did want us there. We were keeping them safe. They were able to start farming their land and grow crops other than, opium and poppies. So interacting with them was great. It was so cool. I don't even really know how to put it into words. We'd had, I think, across the street from our little patrol base, we called him Two Fingers. He was a former Taliban commander, IED maker, who got away from the Taliban and was able to come back to his village. And hearing his stories, it's crazy. And, his little kids running around now, and, they were able to sort of live a normal life while we were there. It's different way of life. Is being able to go into a village and have a key leader engagement. They're making a 20-course meal for us. You see them stomping on bread with their feet, making tea. I got converted to Islam by some local kids. They're reading off their Quran and having me mimic their words, and they thought it was the coolest thing. And so much cool stuff happened there.
Go ahead, Josh.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I like it sounds like you got a lot of personal satisfaction from the good that you observed, that you and your fellow Marines did and accomplished while you were there. And it also sounds like you were very on board with the mission in terms of this implied desire to win. And you said, like, you and several other Marines that you served with had a desire to go back and either finish the job or move the ball forward, but you weren't able to do that. I guess I'm curious about the tension between an unending conflict and the desire to win. And when that, like, you start to see that part, like those two things get further apart, like, oh, we're probably not going to be able to actually finish this mission. And that is, it sounds like that dissatisfied you and some of your fellow Marines, and there was a pivot away from the military at that time. Like, talk to me about what that felt like and how that motivated your decision to maybe leave the Marine Corps, or I don't know what it was like for you, but I'm really curious about that tension and how you played with it.
Yeah, no, that is it's tough, and I think it's still something that I'm trying to figure out in my own head. I don't know, just because of the nature of Afghanistan. I don't know that it's somewhere that a mission like what we set out to do is possible. And I don't think it's something that as, Marines, soldiers, seamen, I don't think it's something that we did wrong. I just think the nature of Afghanistan, the geopolitical, just surroundings of it. I mean, we have, we'd see people from Iran coming in, and they're kind of doing their thing. We were right on the Pakistani border, so we'd have them coming over, and we're just so many hands in that country, wanting different things. And, ultimately, I don't think any of them, well, I don't want to say any of them, but I think there were just a lot of ulterior, motives in different countries getting involved that made it difficult to to truly bring peace to the people in Afghanistan. And it's sad. You see, and we'd still see the remnants from the Russian war there. There were Russian tanks in Nawa, just blown up and discarded. But it definitely tough. I know in 2021, when we finally, the last military members were out of the country, I think it left a lot of us, just with this, just kind of pondering and confused about what happened over the last 20 years. Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of us are still trying to figure out, I think we had good intentions. I really do. We were starting to see the positive change in the area that we were in Nawa. And that was kind of the area that they were, the generals were using as like, okay, let's try to do this everywhere else. But the problem with that was, in Nawa, we had very strict rules of engagement. There were times where we'd get shot at and we can't return fire, because we really wanted to cultivate that, that peaceful mindset in Nawa. Meanwhile, up in Sangin, like the same time that we have these strict rules of engagement, I mean, Sangin was by far the deadliest place in the world. I mean, they were losing Marines every single day in Sangin. And that was like, they were a few miles away from us. So it was kind of like playing whack-a-mole with the Taliban. We'd eliminate the local Taliban, but then we'd get a whole new group coming in from, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Iran, Pakistan. So they were just kind of reloading. And yeah, I don't know what we could have done differently. It's tough.
Especially when you've lost people. I mean, we were at Chipotle the other day and I noticed your bracelet. I don't know if you want to talk about your buddy.
Yeah, my buddy, my best friend, he was with me on that deployment. Patrick Duva, great Marine, awesome mortarman. We actually lost him after the wars. He had a rare form of brain cancer, which is something that we believe is related to the burn pits that we were operating around. So we'd have our patrol base, which is this little mud compound, no roof over us. We've got the stars overhead. And then right next to that, we have a giant pit that was dug out and everything gets thrown in there. All of our trash, we have makeshift porta potties we're using that all gets burned every day. We're throwing, enemy ordnance in there. Just everything, all of our trash went in there. And, we're breathing that in. We're not thinking about that at the time. We have other worries. But looking back on it now, those burn pits, they did a lot of damage. I think the cancer rates for service members, especially those who served overseas, is astronomically higher than the regular population. It sucks, and yeah, we lost Patrick to that about 5 years ago.
That's terrible. I can't believe that they didn't foresee the consequences of that. Sort of like Agent Orange in Vietnam. I don't know if they knew or didn't know. It's still debated, but I've a few guys that work in my practice who are Marines, and they're dealing with like asthma and all kinds of other stuff related to burn pits. That no masks or hazmat suits or anything, just out there like burning that crap and breathing it in. It's terrible.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we have, like you said, asthma, different sinus issues. The air quality was just absolutely crazy. And then you're battling, your dust storms, sandstorms. But yeah, burn pits are, if there's any, any military members out there listening to this, definitely check into the VA. They started the PACT Act. There's the burn pit registry now. They will test you, for some of these cancers. And if they say you don't need it, push back. You have every right to go to the VA and, get those early warning tests done.
Yeah, for sure. Looks like you had a question, Josh.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I got a lot of questions. I guess like the tragedy is you when you enlist, when you raise your right hand, you're committing so much more than 2 years or 4 years or 6 years or you're committing so much more than what you're signing on the dotted line. And in good ways and bad ways, because the army changed me forever, and my experiences changed me forever for the better. I mean, absolutely. And I'm lucky that the gifts keep on giving, and I don't mean that ironically. And at the same time, for every one of me, there's 100 other people who either made the ultimate sacrifice at the time, or made a sacrifice that they didn't know about until much later, like your friend Chris. And
Yeah.
it's like unforeseen consequences, but also, to your point, Miles, very foreseeable consequences from a physical health and a mental health thing. And that famous quote, I think it's attributed to Churchill, but it could be anybody could have said that America always does the right thing after we've exhausted all other options.
Yep.
So
Some sad
true.
person that
But outside of the military experience, or maybe parallel to the military experience, how does that impact how you show up today, Chris, as a man and as a community leader?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm always 15 minutes early. I think my daughter hates that because we're trying to get out the door, and she knows she knows that I need to be early. But no, just sit, um, and really the perseverance, the discipline, and um, just being able to start something and know, I'm gonna finish that. I don't think going into the Marine Corps, I was pretty wild. I love to skateboard, love to break all the rules, all the laws. If I could find a way to break a rule and get away with it, I would. Oh, the Marine Corps really molded me into, being a disciplined man that I am today. And I think the Marine Corps specifically has a really good, track record of doing that, building that structure. And, we thrive off of structure. And that's one thing that the Marine Corps really gave me was,
Mm.
working around structure, having structure, building structure for those around me so that they can also thrive. That's, with our daughter Ava, I feel like that's, the most important thing I've been able to instill in her is giving her this structure, this routine, understanding, like being on time, helping those around you, kind of looking at your friends as your teammates, your brothers and sisters, and, dealing with everything you can to bring out the best in them as well. And that's what we did as Marines. I mean, we were one cohesive family, and we still are. I mean, we've got the group chat where we're every day, we're checking in on each other, helping each other out. It's everyone has a struggle, and we know we're always going to have a Marine there at our back. So it's pretty cool to know you have that there.
Yeah, it's really awesome that you had all that structure with the Marines and then not. That must have been a quick whiplash. Talk about, I mean, maybe we can move into the
Very,
mental health
yeah.
aspect of the conversation now. Like you had a whiplash, and then there was a little bit of a darkness, and then you recovered. And then recently you found the VA, and you're talking to your buddies again, which is great. Walk us through what that was like.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me a while to realize, it's okay to ask for help when you need it. Luckily I have an awesome wife, and over the years she's pushed me to seek that mental health help. And, I never either, not that I didn't think I needed it, but just didn't think it was a thing we did. Wasn't something we ever talked about. But yeah, again, the military, I know a lot of us, and I think Josh, you could probably relate. It's just the culture shock. And, again, losing that tribe, sure, they're still out there, but not having them every single day, 24/7, keeping you that structure. Losing that is a shock that I don't think any of us were prepared for. I was fortunate enough to have awesome family and friends to just keep me on the right track. I know a lot of guys didn't have that, the military. And I think that's something the Army and Marine Corps is probably very similar as, we're a bunch of dudes from completely different backgrounds. I don't think there's one guy with the same background as you there. They're from the Bronx. You got some, corn-fed dudes from the Middle East. We've got the Cali guys. We had Marines from Alaska, Marines from Mexico and Peru. It was crazy. And so just all these different people, coming together, and then yeah, we leave, and some of us, have a really good support group, and a lot of us don't. I was fortunate enough that I did, and it was still extremely difficult for me to to be mentally healthy, to be physically healthy, and to be where I needed to be. And so it struggling to get by, but then seeing my friends who didn't have that support, and they're really struggling. And next thing I know, I have a wife and a kid, and it's tough because I'm trying to raise this family. And my buddy over in, New York, like, he's struggling. My buddy's in Ohio they're having a really rough time. You see them falling into drugs and not getting the help they need. And I look at that and I think, well, I'm doing okay. I'm keeping my head above water. It turns out though, I wasn't. Like, I could have been doing a lot better. Like, I could have been talking about things, seeking, that mental health help. I think a lot of us too, because it's what we've heard and it's what we always hear, like, oh, the VA sucks. Like, the VA isn't good. Like, you're going to wait years to be seen. It wasn't until I started actually, using the VA and those benefits, until I realized, like, wow, like, the VA, maybe it's different in other places, but the VA here in Portland's pretty good. And there is help out there. And I think once I realized that there is help, and I started talking to some buddies, and they're like, yeah, we go to the VA too. We talk to, counselors and therapists, psychologists, and they help us. And, they give us tools to navigate this world. And I'm thinking, really? You guys talk to a therapist? I had no idea. A bunch of machine gunners. No idea you guys are talking to therapists. But yeah, the help is out there. And it's scary at first. But once you jump into it, it's really not that scary. And it's actually pretty cool. I think there's a lot of good that I can get out of it. And honestly, listen to your podcast too, Miles. It light bulb kind of went off a little bit there. Hearing your conversation with Frank, and some of these other podcasts talking about men's mental health. I think there's a lot of men out there, military, non-military, who have that mindset where I can't talk to somebody. I'm not going to talk to anybody about how I'm feeling or my emotions. But we're doing it. Like, there's a ton of guys out there that are doing it, and it's great.
Mhm.
I definitely am I'm an advocate for it now. I think it's, without taking care of your mental health, your physical health is not going to be there either. So that's another message I wanted to get out there in this podcast is, like, it's okay to talk to people. It's actually really awesome. And even if it's not a therapist, talking to other dudes, your buddies,
Yes.
more than just like, hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm good. Like, no, talk to them. Like,
Mm.
get into the details of how you're doing and what's going on. And it feels good to do that. It really does.
Mhm. Yeah, preach on. Love it. Love to hear that. You look like you have a
Well,
question, Josh.
you said something like, that I think I can relate to, but I also wanted to go take it a layer deeper. You were like, we don't ask for help, or it's hard to ask for help. And then I was also just thinking, like, help with what? Because, like, sometimes the lack of self-awareness, especially that I had and still have, let's be honest, but like that I had as a younger man, I was like, I don't have a mental health problem. Like, I suck at life, right? Like it wasn't like it never even occurred to me that I didn't have the skills or the emotional bandwidth, or the things that you actually learn in therapy and with, like, doing some of this inner work. I was just like, I just kind of thought I sucked. And it's like, it never occurred to me that I could change these parts or learn or grow. And so it's even like the level of detail around what are you asking for help with is important to be clear when you're having that conversation.
Yeah, totally. The help as far as, how do I navigate, these thoughts, these feelings? I'm feeling down. It's so easy to just kind of let yourself go deeper and deeper. into those depths. But if you can, talk to somebody and they can give you some tips, some ideas, what are some habits I can build to help bring me back out of those depths? Because it's everyone gets down. The hard part though is knowing what to do when you do get down. And I think that's where some of that help, reaching out to others comes in. Like, what can I do now, to bring me back up and to keep me up, to keep my head above water. That's where I'm kind of at in my journey now. I'm trying to build some more of those positive habits, build new structure into my life to really be firing on all cylinders. If we're a V8 and we only got 5 cylinders going, like no one wants to drive that car. So let's make sure we can go full speed.
Well, to stick with that engine metaphor, which I love, because people think that when they're not going very fast, that they think they need to hit the throttle harder, right? But if you don't have to stick with the engine analogy, if the timing is such that you're only firing on 5 of 8 cylinders, the car's gonna shut down if you flood it with more fuel,
Yeah,
right? It's actually not going to work. And so you need to get the timing fixed. You need to get the internal system into alignment. And that doesn't happen from more effort. In fact, trying harder at something at a shitty strategy is actually just going to make it worse. Like, you don't like your job, get a second job. That's probably not going to help, right? Like,
yeah, that'll shut you down real quick.
Yeah. So, the work that I do with them in the health and fitness space is I actually don't try that hard to tell people what to do or to teach them new things. I feel like if the environment, like you said, setting up the environment of your life so that these things are easier to execute and they happen more naturally, that does all the work for you. If you get into it, you shift your community, you shift your attention, you change how you're spending your time or what you're paying attention to. All of a sudden, it's easier to go to bed on time. It's easier to do the meal prep. It's easier to get to the gym. It's easier to have a productive, fruitful conversation with someone positive. But if you just berate yourself, or if worse, if I berate one of my students, hey, try harder. Like, thanks, asshole. Like I'm already trying pretty hard and it doesn't feel very good.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think that's where it's important to, reach out, and find, look for those resources that are out there to help, show you those tools. Cause you can tell me, oh, you just need to work harder, but at what? Like, what do I need to work harder at to be better? And I think that's where, guys like you and Miles can come in and, help those who just don't know what to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The underwear goes inside the pants, Miles.
That's what I've been doing wrong all these years. So the
Chris,
VA.
what's the?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say the VA has been. Our podcast guest can be like, bro, get this shit together. This is super professional. I'm getting rid of Comcast. If you're out there, Comcast, you're the worst thing I've ever met as far as internet goes. You've been going to the VA and you found it helpful. You've been doing individual therapy and group therapy, or a bit of both. What does it look like for the VA?
Just a little bit of individual right now, but I think it was sort of the first step of, me understanding that there are those resources out there. And it doesn't have to be the VA. It could be a podcast like this. There's a lot of them now. Just listening to your podcast. I mean, just the awesome feedback and tips, and, hearing other guys talk about what's working for them. That could be enough for a lot of guys to, a lot of us to start making those positive changes, building some of that positive structure and, getting on track. So it starts somewhere. For me, I started at the VA and now I'm building upon that. I mean, I never thought I'd be here on a podcast. Always pretty introverted person. And all it took was finding someone like you, Miles, and you kind of pushed me. And it's finding someone who can push you too is another thing. But you're not going to find it if you're not reaching out, you're not seeking help. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about it, is taking that initial step. It's especially now, we're everything's social media, everyone's tied to their phones, and you're, fall into that trap where like death's scrolling all day long, and nothing's getting done though. And it's so easy to fall into that. Um, but yeah, just it's taking that first step, seeking help, something a lot of us never thought we would do. I didn't think, oh, I'm not going to go talk to somebody and like they don't want to hear about my feelings or emotions, but yeah, they do. Like, and my wife's been doing it for years, and she keeps telling me how awesome it is. And I finally listened to her, and it's like, oh, you were right.
Shout out to Charlotte.
And she loves to hear that.
What is different, or what have you implemented that has changed or given you the most relief or value in the last year? Something that you learned that you didn't know before, either from therapy or from checking out a book or a podcast. Like what has given you the most mileage and progress in your own personal life?
For me, it's been just getting out there in the world and more. So I'm work from home, working remote, as just a naturally introverted type of person. I kind of became a hermit, a shell of myself. And the last year, so it helps that I have a daughter who's into jujitsu now and into soccer, and she's kind of forcing me out into the world. And that's how I met Miles. And just that's been the biggest thing for me is getting out of this fake virtual world almost and getting back into the real world, into the community, actually talking to people. Like that's, I think, I think that's extremely underrated right now is, being real again, just talking to people. It's crazy that we've gotten so far away from that to me. And, it's one thing I see in our local community here in Oregon City that I love is, there's a lot of people out and about here in downtown Oregon City. We've got Porch Fest. All these people just, having bands on their front porch and coming together in the neighborhood. And next thing you know, you're meeting tons of awesome people that you had no idea were right there as your next door neighbor, and it's kind of where we're at now. Charlotte and I, and it's tough too, because we moved here from Florida right after COVID, or it's like right before COVID. And we didn't really know anybody here on the West Coast. In the Pacific Northwest, I think is unique in that it is a pretty introverted place compared to where we came from in Florida. So it's taken us a while to get out there and start meeting people. And now we're finally breaking through and we're doing that. And it feels good. It's cool to have these conversations with people again and, get out there.
Yeah. Connection's the opposite of addiction. You get so much from your own nervous system when you plug into someone else's.
Yeah, I like that.
Very true. Well, coming up on hard stop for Josh, you got a Mother's Day thing coming up, early Mother's Day.
Yeah, she mom gets every day is Mother's Day. Let's be honest, like every day is Mother's Day, and she wants to see her oldest boy. So I'm gonna take her to a nice late lunch.
Very nice.
Cool.
Well, do we have any closing thoughts or comments? Did we miss anything? Anything else you want to add, Chris?
No, I just think you're doing an awesome thing with this podcast. Like I said, it's helped me since I listened to that first one with, I think, you, Josh, and Frank, and I was hooked, and I picked up a lot, from listening to you guys. And I think there's a lot of guys out here who probably thinking the same thing. I think you're doing a great thing here. I thank you for having me on, letting me be a part of it.
Yeah, of course. And you're referring to the one with Frank Grun. If the listener's wondering who Frank is, it's the one with Frank Grun. That was a pretty good one. You got to do what you wanted to do, or adjacent. I think it was a PJ and something else, not a combat controller. I think you guys should meet. You guys you'd geek out forever. I think it'd be amazing.
I think I'm losing you there a little bit, Miles.
Oh, did I come back? At what point did you lose me?
Whatever you last said, none of it came through on my end.
I was just telling everybody that
apology.
That's all good. That's my internet. If you're
Hopefully
talking
Riverside
about,
picked it up.
Yeah, Riverside will pick it up. You were talking about Frank. We were saying it was Frank Grun. That podcast with Frank Grun.
He's trapped in a wormhole.
Am I still in a wormhole? Anyways, we should probably stop before this train wrecks further.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to lose the whole feed.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to implode. Well, thanks for coming, Chris. We'll have to have you for a review at some point. Yeah. Oh, there's the dog. I forgot. You have a cool dog.
I do have a crazy dog, but
cool.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. We will.
Nice meeting you, Chris.
And hopefully by then I'll have
you as well.
a different internet provider too.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Later, guys.
See ya.